If you ever want to know what betrayal really looks like, imagine your own family destroying a house they thought belonged to you, only to learn it didn't, and watching them get hauled away in handcuffs while screaming your name. I never thought the people who raised me would one day turn against me over something as simple as a house. I worked for years to save enough money to buy that modest little place. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was mine, and every time I looked at it, I saw my hard work and sacrifices. I felt proud of it in a quiet way, the kind of pride that doesn't need to be shown off. But to my family, that house was nothing more than a way to fix their problems again. My parents, Marlon and Veda, came to me with dramatic sighs and long faces. My sister Callie acted like my house already belonged to her. And Denton, her husband, didn't even hide the way he felt. He believed I didn't deserve a house at all since I lived alone and kept to myself. They sat in my apartment and pushed me from all sides. My father said a good daughter would sell the house without thinking twice. My mother told me I was too selfish with my success. Callie said I was choosing money over family. Denton muttered under his breath that I was being unreasonable and childish. But I stayed calm. I stayed firm. I told them I wasn't selling my house. Not for anyone. The room went so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Then the insults began, soft at first, then sharper. They guilt-tripped me, mocked my quiet life, acted like I owed them everything because of the smallest things they had done for me years ago. I sat there listening, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Their desperation wasn't the normal kind. It felt dangerous. It felt like they were on the edge of doing something reckless. I noticed the tightness in my mother's jaw, the wild look in Callie's eyes, and Denton's clenched fists. Even my father's voice had changed, like he had already decided what I should do, no matter what I said. When they finally got up to leave, Callie turned back and glared at me. If you won't help us, don't blame us for what happens next. They walked out and slammed the door. I stayed on my couch, staring at the closed door, my chest tight and my thoughts spinning. My family had always manipulated me, but this was different. This felt like a warning. I could feel it in my bones. Something darker was coming, and I wasn't ready for it. My parents came back the next day, still pushing the same idea. They said family must help family, and they acted like it was a rule I had to follow. They ignored all the times I had already helped Callie in the past. I had paid her bills, covered her mistakes, and supported her more than anyone else ever had. But none of that mattered to them now. Callie stood in front of me with no shame at all. She talked about my house like it already belonged to her. She said selling it was the only smart choice, and she acted like she was doing me a favor by letting me help her. She didn't care how hard I had worked for that house. She didn't care about anything except getting money fast. Denton made everything worse. He looked at me like I was wasting space. He said someone like me didn't need a house anyway, because I had no husband and no kids. His words were cold, and he didn't hide the disrespect in his voice. To him, my hard work meant nothing. My choices meant nothing. The house meant nothing except a way to solve their problems. I felt their eyes on me, waiting for me to break, waiting for me to give in like I always did. But I didn't move. I kept my voice steady and told them again that I was not selling my house. I didn't explain myself. I didn't argue. I just said no. It was the only answer I had. The room changed immediately. My mother's face tightened. My father shook his head like I had disappointed him on purpose. Callie's expression turned mean, like she had been insulted. Denton let out a loud breath, annoyed that I dared to stand up for myself. No one tried to discuss it anymore. They didn't want a conversation. They wanted control. When they realized I wasn't giving them what they wanted, they all stood up at the same time. No one said goodbye. No one even looked at me with any warmth. They walked to the door with stiff movements, as if my refusal had cut them deeply. Right before leaving, my father stopped and turned back. He didn't yell, but his tone carried a warning. He said if I wouldn't help, then they would handle it themselves. My mother nodded like she agreed with something unsaid. Callie muttered that I would regret choosing a stupid house over real family. Denton smirked as if he already knew what they planned to do. Then they left, slamming the door behind them. I sat there alone in the quiet room, feeling the weight of their anger. Their words kept echoing in my mind. I knew they were serious. The way they looked at me, the tone in their voices, it wasn't normal frustration. It felt like a threat. And deep down, I knew they were about to take things too far. I didn't actually live in the house my family wanted me to sell. I had rented it out to an older man named Harlan Quince. He was a quiet, respectful veteran who took care of the place as if it were his own. I trusted him completely, and for years he had been a good tenant, paying rent on time and keeping the house in order. I lived in a small apartment across town. It was nothing like the house, but it was close to work, and it gave me the peace I needed. I liked my simple life there. I cooked my own meals, paid my own bills, and kept to myself. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine too, and I felt safe there. My family didn't know this. They still thought I lived in the house full-time. I could tell from the way they talked about my house, as if they had every right to enter, take what they wanted, or demand my money. I didn't correct them. I didn't tell them the truth. I wanted distance. I didn't want to see their faces when they realized I had created my own space, a life separate from them. Even though I tried to stay calm, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that settled in my chest. I had learned over the years that people like my family, who felt entitled, didn't back down when they wanted something. They pushed. They demanded. And if they didn't get it, they could act in ways I didn't expect. I thought about what they might do if they ever went to the house and found it wasn't empty, if they realized I didn't live there anymore. My mind kept going back to Harlan. He was alone, and he trusted me to protect him and the house. The thought of something happening to him made my stomach twist. I decided to stay alert. I made mental notes to call Harlan more often, to check on the house whenever I could. I also thought about my own safety. If my family believed they could take my house, what else might they try? The worry didn't leave me. It was a quiet, constant weight, like a shadow at the edge of everything I did. I couldn't let them know how much I feared them, so I kept my face calm and my tone steady whenever I talked to anyone about the house. I told myself that being prepared was enough for now. I would handle whatever came, but I had to be careful. I had to protect Harlan, my house, and my own life. Even sitting alone in my apartment, I felt the tension in the air. It wasn't just the fear of losing the house. It was the fear of what my family might do next. They had already shown how far they were willing to go. I just hoped I could stay one step ahead before anything drastic happened. I tried calling Harlan a few times that day, just to check if everything was okay at the house, but he didn't pick up. Each ring made my chest tighten a little more. I left messages, but still no response. Something about the silence felt wrong, and I couldn't shake it. Later, I decided to drive by the house myself. From the street, everything looked normal. The lawn was tidy, the windows were intact, and no cars were out front. On the surface, it seemed like nothing had happened. But even with that reassurance, a knot stayed in my stomach. I knew better than to trust appearances completely. While I was trying to calm myself, my phone kept buzzing with messages. It was Callie. At first, they looked like simple texts, but the words were sharp under the surface. She wrote things like, "You put money over blood, and family comes first, don't forget that." It was meant to make me feel guilty, but instead it made me angrier. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared of me. She was trying to pressure me, and I could feel her pushing for more. I talked to my friend and coworker, Tamsin Ridge, about it. Tamsin had a way of seeing things clearly when I felt too emotional. She listened carefully and then said, "Ria, people who feel entitled always escalate. You can't let them think they can get to you." Her words stuck with me. She was right. I couldn't ignore the warning signs. I had to be ready. After that conversation, I decided to take action. I changed the locks on my apartment immediately. I wanted to make sure no one could get in without my permission. I also added extra security measures, just to be safe. Small cameras, better locks, anything that could give me control over my own space. I knew I had to protect myself. Even with these precautions, I couldn't stop checking my phone, thinking about Harlan, and imagining what my family might do next. The tension didn't go away, and I felt it in every small noise, every knock, every unexpected sound outside my apartment. I couldn't let them catch me off guard. I realized I had to stay calm, careful, and watchful. My family had already shown their willingness to push boundaries, and I had a feeling they wouldn't stop with words alone. If they wanted something, they would act, and I had to be ready before they did. I spent the rest of the evening thinking about plans, ways to protect the house and Harlan, and how to make sure I stayed one step ahead. The uneasy feeling in my chest didn't go away, but I knew I had to trust my instincts and prepare for whatever came next. I got a message that made my heart skip. It was anonymous, and it said only, "Check your house." I didn't wait. I grabbed my keys and drove as fast as I could, my stomach twisting with fear. Every red light felt like an hour. Every passing car made my pulse faster. When I pulled up, my chest sank. The yard was destroyed. The grass was trampled, and flower pots were broken. The front door was smashed, hanging on one hinge. Windows were shattered, letting cold air and broken glass inside. Walls were spray-painted with ugly words I couldn't even read through my shock. Furniture had been thrown outside, some pieces broken beyond repair. It looked like a storm had hit, but I knew better. Harlan wasn't anywhere to be seen. I called his name, my voice shaking, but there was no answer. My neighbors gathered at the street, their faces full of worry. One of them spoke quickly, telling me that a group of people had broken in earlier. They had been screaming my name as they destroyed everything. My heart stopped. I fell to my knees in the yard, hands trembling, trying to process what I was seeing. The place I had trusted someone with, the place that had been safe, was now a disaster. I kept thinking of Harlan. Where was he? Was he hurt? Was he hiding somewhere, scared and alone? I couldn't stop the tears from falling. I felt guilty, helpless, and terrified all at once. Before I could do anything else, police cars arrived. Officers got out quickly, radios in hand, and asked me to step aside. One of them told me a neighbor had recorded everything. I couldn't believe it. Someone had seen it all. Who broke in, what they did, every smashed window, every thrown chair. The thought was both horrifying and a small relief. At least there was proof. I tried to stay calm as the officers took notes and spoke to the neighbors. But inside, I felt like I was breaking apart. The house, my tenant, my trust, everything felt destroyed in an instant. I walked slowly around the yard, seeing the damage up close. Each broken piece reminded me that this wasn't just an accident. This was intentional. Someone had wanted to hurt me, to take from me what I had earned. I called Harlan again, my voice tight with fear. Still no answer. My mind raced with every possible worst-case scenario. Where could he be? Was he hiding? Was he safe? My hands shook, and I couldn't stop pacing. The police assured me they would look at the footage and figure out who had done this. I nodded, but it didn't calm me. All I could think about was finding Harlan and making sure he was okay. Everything else, the house, the furniture, even my anger, mattered less than his safety. I stayed in the yard for what felt like hours, looking at the destruction, feeling the weight of it all, and praying that Harlan would come out of this unharmed. The police showed me the footage, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Every moment of the attack was on tape. My parents, Marlon and Veda, my sister Callie, and Denton were all there, breaking into the house as if they owned it. They moved through every room with anger and purpose, smashing things, throwing furniture, and chanting together. "Show us the money now, Rhea." Callie was the worst. She seemed almost happy destroying photographs, personal items, anything that reminded me of my life. She screamed at the top of her lungs, knocking over shelves and ripping pictures from walls. I watched frozen, feeling a mix of fear, anger, and heartbreak. How could the people who were supposed to love me care so little about me or anything I had worked for? Seeing my family like that, I felt ashamed and hurt in ways I couldn't even describe. They didn't just destroy a house. They destroyed my sense of safety, my trust, and the belief that family meant anything to me. Every smashed window, every thrown chair, every spray-painted wall felt like a personal attack, a message that they thought nothing of my hard work or my life. The officers stood quietly behind me as I watched. When I finally looked at them, one spoke carefully. "This is serious. What they did isn't just vandalism. It counts as a major felony. Breaking and entering, property destruction, and intimidation could all carry heavy charges. It might even be considered home invasion." I felt a chill run down my spine. I had always known my family could be selfish, but seeing the law treat it this way made me realize how dangerous their actions were. I handed over documents, proving that I didn't live in the house at the time. I showed the rental agreement with Harlan and evidence that the property was mine alone. The officers took everything and nodded, saying it strengthened the case. I could feel a slight relief, knowing that the truth was on my side. The footage clearly showed my family's faces, their actions, and the words they shouted. No one could deny what had happened. Even with that relief, I couldn't stop staring at the screen. Every detail made me feel both stronger and more broken at the same time. They had tried to take from me and hurt me, but now the proof existed, and it couldn't be ignored. I realized that this was a turning point, not just for the house, but for me. I couldn't undo what they had done, but I could protect what was mine and make sure justice was served. The mix of horror and resolve filled me as I left the footage room. I knew what had to happen next, and for the first time, I felt a quiet confidence that I could face whatever came, as long as the truth stayed with me. My family's betrayal had been exposed, and now the law would make them answer for it. The police started tracking down my family after seeing the footage. They found Marlon, Veda, Callie, and Denton at different places, but none of them cooperated at first. They argued loudly, insisting, "It's her house. It's her money. She's the one being selfish." Their voices were full of anger and denial, but the officers stayed calm and kept taking notes. When the police explained that Harlan had been inside the house during the attack and had to hide in a closet to stay safe, their faces changed. Suddenly the situation became much more serious. The fact that someone could have been hurt turned the charges from simple vandalism into something much heavier. My stomach tightened when I heard that. I had feared for Harlan's safety, and now it was official that they had endangered him. Harlan was found a short time later. He came out of the house shaken, his hands trembling, but unharmed. Seeing him safe was a huge relief. He looked at me with concern and support, saying softly that everything would be okay. His calm presence made me feel stronger, like I wasn't facing this alone. Meanwhile, my parents were pleading with me. They said they were sorry, begging me not to press charges, talking about how this would tear the family apart if I went through with it. But I could see through their words. They weren't truly sorry for what they did. They were scared of the consequences. I stayed silent, listening, but I knew I couldn't let fear stop justice. Callie was the loudest. She screamed at me from the police car, threatening me and blaming me for ruining her life. She waved her arms and spat out words full of anger, hatred, and entitlement. Denton tried to calm her, but she wouldn't stop. Even as the officers reminded her to stay quiet, her voice carried across the street, full of fury. Watching them, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Their actions had caught up with them, and the truth was out. I didn't have to keep pretending, or hiding, or protecting them from their own mistakes. The law was handling that for me. Through it all, Harlan stayed close, quietly reassuring me with his presence. My parents begged, Callie shouted, Denton tried to reason, but I knew that pressing charges was the right choice. Not out of revenge, but to make sure what they did wouldn't be repeated. I realized in that moment that my family's actions had consequences, and I didn't have to be afraid anymore. I could stand firm, knowing that I was protecting myself, the house, and Harlan. Their anger and threats didn't change anything. The police were in control, and the truth was on my side. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe. My family had shown their true selves, and now the law would make them answer for it. I didn't have to forgive them, but I could finally feel safe knowing that justice was moving forward. I let the justice system take its course, not because I wanted to hurt my family, but to protect myself. I knew that if I didn't let the law handle things, they might try something else, and I couldn't risk that. It wasn't about revenge. It was about keeping my life and my home safe. As the court proceedings started, it became clear how serious this all was. My family faced multiple charges: felony vandalism, breaking and entering, property destruction, and intimidation were all listed. Every officer and lawyer who saw the footage agreed that what they had done could not be ignored. Seeing their actions written down in official documents made me realize how far they had crossed the line. Callie's behavior in the footage stood out the most. She was violent, angry, and completely out of control. Because of that, the charges against her were harsher than the others. I knew it was right. She had smashed photographs, screamed, and acted in ways that put everyone at risk. The court couldn't overlook that, and neither could I. Even though some relatives tried to pressure me, I refused to drop the case. They came to me with soft words, guilt trips, and reminders of family loyalty. They wanted me to forgive and forget, but I couldn't. Not this time. I had learned the hard way that my family didn't respect me or my boundaries, and I couldn't let them off the hook. Tamsin, my coworker and friend, was by my side the whole time. She reminded me to stay strong and focused, to not let anyone's pressure sway me. Whenever I felt doubt or guilt creeping in, she would be there with words that kept me grounded. Her support made me feel less alone and more certain that I was doing the right thing. Harlan also became a steady presence in my life. His calm and thoughtful ways gave me comfort, and his advice felt like the wisdom of someone who had seen much more in life than I had. He reminded me that protecting myself and my home was not selfish. It was necessary. He treated me with patience and care, becoming like a grandfatherly figure I could rely on when everything else felt unstable. As the court process continued, I felt a strange sense of calm. My family's actions had caused pain, but now the law was in control. I didn't need to take matters into my own hands. Every hearing, every piece of evidence, and every statement from officers strengthened my sense of security. By standing firm and allowing justice to take its path, I realized I was reclaiming control over my life. I didn't need to shout or fight physically to make them pay. The system would do that, and I could focus on rebuilding my life, keeping my home safe, and surrounding myself with people who truly cared for me. For the first time in a long time, I felt that I had power over my own future, free from fear and manipulation. I decided to visit my parents one last time before the court sentenced them. I wasn't going for forgiveness. I needed closure, a way to see them one final time and understand everything clearly. I wanted to leave with my own peace, not get caught up in their lies again. As soon as I arrived, they started talking about money. Even now, after everything, they acted like I owed them something. My parents begged for help, pretending it was out of love, but I could see through it. Their words made it clear they never cared about me as a person. They only wanted what I had worked for. From another room, I could hear Callie screaming. Her voice was sharp, full of anger and entitlement. She yelled that I owed her everything, and that I had ruined her life. I stopped for a moment and listened, feeling the weight of her words, but I didn't let it shake me. She had always been like this, selfish and cruel, and I refused to give her the power to control my emotions now. I looked at my parents and Callie calmly and spoke clearly. I told them I owed them nothing. I reminded them that I had spent years working for my life and my home, and none of it was theirs to take. I said I was done being their wallet, done giving them chances to hurt me or take advantage of me. I told them I would rebuild my life on my own terms, without depending on them or waiting for their approval. For a moment, there was silence. I could see their frustration, their anger, and their disbelief. They had expected fear, tears, or begging. Instead, I stood firm. I didn't argue, I didn't beg, I just stated the truth. I wasn't theirs to control anymore. I could feel a sense of lightness inside me, like a heavy weight had lifted. Saying what I needed to say, facing them one last time, and standing my ground gave me something I hadn't had in years: freedom. I didn't need their approval, their love, or even their presence in my life. I had myself, my strength, and the knowledge that I would protect what was mine. After a few moments, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Every step I took felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been buried under years of manipulation and lies. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm and in control. I didn't feel anger or hatred anymore, just clarity and determination. As I left their house, I felt truly free. My family had shown their true colors, and I no longer needed to carry the weight of their actions or their expectations. I had my life, my home, and my future. And this time I would build it without them. I would rebuild everything, stronger and better than before, surrounded by people who truly cared, not those who only cared about what I could give them. The court finally handed down the sentences. My parents, Callie, and Denton were going to jail. Some for a few months, others for over a year. It felt strange to see the law finish what I couldn't do myself. I didn't feel joy or anger, just a quiet sense of relief. Justice had been served, and I could finally breathe without fear of their interference. Once the legal process ended, I focused on the house. I used my insurance and savings to repair the damage. Every broken window was replaced, every wall repainted, and every ruined piece of furniture either restored or replaced. I added small touches that made it even more beautiful than before, making the house feel safe and full of life again. Each improvement reminded me that this home was mine and mine alone. Harlan was there the entire time, helping in small ways and keeping me grounded. One evening, we sat together on the porch, looking over the yard. The sun was low, and everything felt peaceful. I turned to him and quietly thanked him for standing by me through all of it. His calm support had been a steady light during the darkest moments. He smiled, and I felt a warmth I hadn't realized I was missing. As I sat there, I reflected on everything I had been through. My family had shown their true colors, and I had learned an important lesson. The people you are related to by blood aren't always the ones who will protect or care for you. I decided that from now on I would build my life around chosen family, people who respected me, supported me, and loved me for who I was. I didn't need blood ties to feel safe or valued. For the first time in a long while, I felt completely free. I didn't need revenge in the way the world usually thinks of it. I didn't need to hurt anyone or make them pay in anger. My revenge was quiet and clean. It was in reclaiming my home, my safety, and my peace. Every repaired wall, every fresh coat of paint, every small detail of the house was a reminder that I had won back control of my life without losing myself in hatred. I realized that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't about punishment or pain. It's about living well, protecting what is yours, and surrounding yourself with people who truly care. Sitting on that porch with Harlan, watching the house shine in the evening light, I felt a calm satisfaction. I had survived betrayal, protected what mattered, and created a life built on strength, love, and careful choice. And in that quiet, soft moment, I understood the truth. Peace is more powerful than anger, and freedom is the sweetest revenge of all.